No terceiro episódio da temporada Museus, nós checamos como museus em Salvador, Londres, Antuérpia e Bruxelas organizam exposições permanentes e temporárias. Série Gestão Cultural Mundo Afora. Mais uma troca de ideias sobre métodos e estratégias de gestão cultural está começando. Os 5 museus que participam da série Gestão Cultural Mundo Afora têm algo em comum. Entra ano e sai ano e eles sempre registram elevados indicadores de público. E nós ficamos curiosos. Quais são as estratégias utilizadas pelos gestores desses equipamentos para manter o interesse do público nas exposições que eles organizam? Eu sou Daniele Canedo e convido você para um passeio nos bastidores das exposições organizados por 5 museus localizados em Bruxelas, Antuérpia, Salvador e Londres. Vem comigo!
Permanent exhibitions, when we're planning them, tend to have a shelf life of 10 years. But in reality, that can often be a little longer. So, for example, we're undergoing a series of refurbishment works in our Earth galleries at the moment. And the galleries that we're targeting have been there for, I'd say, about 14 years. So we sometimes go over that 10-year threshold. Very often we have the ambition to be adaptable enough to make changes along the way. But the reality is that we're often finding that a refurbishment work is a total refurbishment, so we wait till the end of the gallery's life cycle and then do a wholehearted attempt at refurbishing the gallery rather than a piecemeal attempt.
Normally we have a rather stable accrochage, as they say, hanging, display, and we change it when works are being lent to exhibitions outside the museum. So then we just rehang a part of the room, but this goes really fluently. We don't have periods in time, basically.
Por enquanto, estamos apenas realizando exposições temporárias. Mas eu tenho, desde o ano passado, que eu tenho a intenção de fazer exposições de média duração com diferentes recortes do nosso acervo. O nosso acervo precisa ser exibido publicamente, ele precisa estar sempre exposto para que o público possa ver diferentes recortes, diferentes leituras do nosso acervo.
In the beginning, my statement of this museum was, and people were shocked about that statement, was, well, the mass is not a museum. But I want to, of course it's a museum, but I wanted to express my idea that this is more than just a museum. We live in a time where people have more demands on how you deal with collections, how you deal with presentations, how you experience an exhibition. And I think it's a good evolution. First of all, we do not create permanent exhibitions. The idea is to create a shopping mall, and every time, on every different level, we get rid of the presentations and create a new space with another presentation. So people have the idea that we have to go back because, again, something has changed and we try to find out what has changed.
A duração de cada exposição é de 2 meses, aproximadamente, às vezes um pouco mais ou um pouco menos. E temos em torno de 18 a 20 exposições por ano. Por ser um museu, que tem a maior visitação do Estado, um espaço muito procurado, Ele é um museu que está localizado em um ambiente muito bonito, em um espaço muito bonito, é um sítio histórico, bastante conhecido no exterior, por conta de todas as exposições que já foram realizadas aqui. Então, a procura por parte de artistas e produtores para realizarem não só exposições, como outros eventos aqui no museu é grande. Então, às vezes, temos uma antecedência de 2 anos para preparar e organizar o nosso calendário expositivo e de outras ações. O calendário de ações educativas, ele já trabalha com um pouco menos de antecipação. Às vezes, com 1 ano, 6 meses, até 6 meses de antecedência, é possível realizar esse programa.
put our temporary exhibitions on for a period around 5 to 7 months, depending on when they open and which gallery they're in. So our main exhibition space, the Waterhouse Gallery, has 2 exhibitions a year. So it, apart from the change out time between exhibitions, it will have something on all year round. Our second space, the Jerwood Gallery, will have 1 exhibition a year, and that will be on for longer. So that's around a 7-month run. And then when we put exhibitions outside the museum on the lawn, they will run for the duration of the summer.
Yes, every year we will have 3 or 4 major exhibitions in the Sainsbury wing, and those are normally charged for. These are the very big exhibitions. In addition, we'll have free exhibitions in our Sunley room. They tend to be a little bit smaller and perhaps sometimes more specialist. That gives us an opportunity sometimes to feature artists that may not be well known, or sometimes to take a very different theme, like to look at the work of a contemporary artist and how they've been inspired by an old master. So over the next few years, we have a number of different types of exhibitions, some with very well-known artists, but some showing contemporary artists and old masters. So in total, at any point in time, we've probably got 3 or 4 exhibitions running.
The normal calendar is 2 big exhibitions per year, like retrospective exhibitions with a circuit and etc. A catalogue, yeah. And then we have small exhibitions, and there we have 4 per year. And this depends. It can take 2, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. We have 2 seasons really. We have the October-January season for the big exhibitions, and then March until June.
Para a organização da agenda de projetos e exposições, existem reuniões que são periódicas aqui no museu com todos os coordenadores, que a direção e a assessoria convocam a gente. Essas reuniões normalmente podem ser semanais ou quinzenais. Então, nessas reuniões a gente discute todos os projetos que a gente tem ideia em fazer e o que a gente recebeu, solicitações de exposições, e é a partir dessas reuniões que vão surgindo ideias que alguém pode complementar. Eu já vi um vídeo que parece, pode incluir.
The first step is really coming up with the ideas. It sounds like the easy part. It actually takes quite a lot of time. What we do is we look very hard at what our mission as a museum is, what we want to be showing people, what we want to be saying about our science and our research, what we want to bring out of our collections. So that's the first step, and we come up with a lot of ideas of what we could do exhibitions on.
There's an exhibition department, but they work very, very closely with a curatorial team. So ideas tend to come from that curatorial team and then are guided by the exhibition team, who then have to bring those ideas to implementation as an exhibition in the gallery.
We have curators per section, and so everybody's responsible for their period. The initiative is taken by the curators from the museum, the director, of course, and then sometimes external curators,
Nossas obras estão todas em bom estado de conservação, mas para a exposição a gente sempre tem um outro olhar, então a gente vai caprichar mais. A gente tem esse cuidado de estar sempre fazendo uma checagem diária em todas as obras que estão expostas, seja da nossa coleção ou de coleções particulares ou que estejam aqui no museu para participarem de exposições.
Always the conservation department is involved in the technical planning for our exhibitions, just to make sure that we understand what's coming into the exhibition, what sort of works we're borrowing, if there are particular needs that works that may not be ours that are coming into the collection might have in terms of their condition requirements, handling issues, light exposure, all those kinds of things. So we're involved from the very beginning in larger discussions about the nature of exhibitions coming in. We may also then think about whether pictures in the gallery themselves that might be going into our exhibition might benefit from some sort of treatment. So it's a mixture of that kind of preventive role and then considering an exhibition as an opportunity to think about our program of restoration itself.
não são pensadas para um público específico. Essas exposições, elas são pensadas para um público de forma geral, né? O que nós queremos é que haja sempre um aporte maior de pessoas ao museu, que mais pessoas venham, que um público variado venha, né? Afinal de contas, a arte é para todos, tem que ser para todos e é nesse sentido que nós trabalhamos.
We put on 4 temporary exhibitions at the museum each year, and each one will be targeted to a different audience. And it's also an extremely loyal audience to the museum. About 60% of visitors to that exhibition come back every year to see it. So it's a wonderful way of bringing people back into the museum year on year and really getting them excited and engaged with the place.
In the beginning of exhibition development, we'll always go out and meet with our target audience. Once we've defined that audience, we'll pull together focus groups, often facilitated by external companies for us, but we'll meet with that target audience, show them examples of the content that we're developing and get feedback. But at a point in the process that's so early on, we can actually make changes, and it's an effective way of shaping an exhibition that meets those needs.
One of the most important things is the decision about who is going to see this exhibition. Is this one for a very broad appeal, or sometimes it's for a more specialist market? So the communication group will get together and discuss the audiences that it's going to be communicated to.
A gente abre licitações, que são licitações super assim, regulares, né? E para a contratação de uma empresa, produtora de evento, produtora de atividades culturais, para realizar as atividades da gente. No termo de referência, você especifica quais as atividades e quais os materiais necessários à realização das exposições e das atividades. Material, mão de obra, tudo extremamente detalhado, para que não haja erro, para que a produtora contratada não chegue aqui e se surpreenda com alguma necessidade.
A gente recebe solicitações de projetos para serem desenvolvidos no MAN e a gente também faz a produção das exposições que são realizadas aqui no museu. Então, a partir dessa solicitação, a gente analisa, vê se é viável, se tem data, se o conteúdo do projeto, se o intuito do projeto condiz com as atividades desenvolvidas aqui. A gente dá um retorno, se o projeto foi aprovado, a gente acompanha o início, o meio e fim do projeto, como qualquer trabalho de produção. Para a produção das exposições, normalmente um produtor fica acompanhando uma determinada exposição, do início ao fim. A gente faz desde o contato com os artistas, para solicitar projetos tipográficos, para entender cronograma, para afinar detalhes como chegada de obras, seguro, transporte, enfim. Até a realização da exposição, que a gente trabalha em conjunto com a equipe de montagem, quem é que cuida mais da parte cenográfica.
It takes a long time to plan the process for an exhibition, and there are many steps that need to be taken along the way. The Leonardo exhibition, for example, took over 5 years of planning to come to fruition. The starting point is the curatorial vision, where the curator will decide what is the most appropriate artist to focus on, whether it's a very famous artist or perhaps sometimes a lesser known artist. And then their thinking is shared with a wide group of people across the organisation, so that we're all inspired and motivated about what's going to happen. But also then as the next stage, we start to plan our communications and our implementation of the exhibition. So the communication group will get together and discuss the audiences that it's going to be communicated to. The design team will start to have discussions about the design of the exhibition and the design of the materials of interpretation and education and marketing around it. So there's a number of different groups that will have been briefed by the curator, who then organise their plans and then all come back together again prior to the exhibition to discuss the plans and ensure that it's all well in place and that we're covering every area. So it's a very long and very complicated process.
It is decided by the director or the curators, etc., like I explained earlier. And just they give us, the list of works they want, and then from there on we ask the loans and the transport and the insurance and the planning and the logistics and the research, a real small part of the research.
For a temporary exhibition here, it has to work obviously in the museum space itself, it has to work for our audience, but it also has to work on tour because we travel our temporary exhibitions around Europe, to North America, to the rest of the world. So we test them very hard, we do market research, we ask a lot of questions of our visitors, but we also test them from a commercial perspective. Are they likely to bring lots of people in? Will people pay the ticket price to come and see this exhibition? Does it have enough appeal? Is it the right topic for the audience that we're targeting? So once we've gone through that entire process, we come up with our list of exhibitions that we will continue to develop at the museum. At that point, we will start doing our research and pull our project team together. We work in large teams across the museum, so the interpretation department leads on the narrative and the content of the exhibition, but we work very hard with other departments across the museum, with our project management department, with our scientists, with interactive media, with learning, and bring all that expertise into the room for each exhibition. We also engage exhibition designers to work with us on the 3D and the 2D design of each show. And we will take approximately 18 months to 2 years from start to finish before we have an exhibition that is ready to open.
It's a mixture of both. Most commonly, an exhibition is created and designed within the National Gallery, but occasionally it's done in collaboration with another organisation, so that an exhibition might start at the National Gallery and then might move to another museum gallery around the world, or occasionally an exhibition might start somewhere else and come to us. So it's a mixture of the two. And whatever happens with an exhibition, whether it's been created by ourselves or by another gallery, it will usually include works from our permanent collection and also loans from other galleries.
So our temporary exhibitions are a mixture of exhibitions we develop ourselves in-house from start to finish, exhibitions that we buy in or hire from other venues, that we will try and add our own angle to. So we might look at including some stories there of museum science or bringing out some specimens from our collections to complement the displays. And we also work in partnership with other museums on developing the exhibitions. So we'll work with them on the concept and the narrative all the way through. And we will collaborate with them on showing objects from collections, and we'll also collaborate with them on the touring element if it is a show that goes on to tour.
This depends. We have other museums, they contact us and they say, let's do something together and we can work with your collection, etc., etc. So we don't have a standard way of it just happens.
Nós temos uma procura muito grande, né, por parte de artistas e produtores, de curadores também, para utilizar o espaço do museu para essas exposições. O que acontece é que nós temos, obviamente, uma linha a seguir, né? O museu é um museu de arte moderna da Bahia, mas nós trabalhamos basicamente com exposições de arte contemporânea, né? De arte contemporânea e arte moderna também.
Uma coisa recente no museu que é a democratização das solicitações de pauta. Ou seja, a gente, depois de um tempo, a gente conseguiu ter fôlego e equipe para desenvolver como se fosse um edital para aquelas pessoas que querem desenvolver um projeto já ter a chance de participar e ter um retorno. Ou seja, como vai funcionar? No nosso site vai ter sessão de espaço do MAN, gratuito. Nessa sessão de espaço tem todos os requisitos para você fazer essa solicitação.
Muitas instituições estrangeiras nos solicitam um empréstimo de obras para comporem exposições que são organizadas por outras instituições ou outros museus, né? E, obviamente, nós sempre que é possível, ou seja, quando não há uma impossibilidade em termos de agenda, ou seja, a utilização de alguma dessas obras em uma exposição que o museu está propondo, mas quando não há esse impedimento, nós sempre emprestamos, né, as obras, porque é importante que esse acervo do museu circule e que seja conhecido por outros públicos, né, que não o público ou baiano ou que visita o estado para conhecer, né, as nossas exposições.
Certainly anything traveling to any exhibition will have a very thorough examination and a record of its condition compiled by whoever lends a painting, and that's a kind of agreed record of condition against which the picture is examined before, during, and after alone. So that's a very important thing to do, to be absolutely certain about the fact that nothing may have happened to the painting during the course of the exhibition.
So what we do is, in the first place, well, we check the institution. In most cases, we don't have to check because we, of course, we're working for 200 years in this business, so we know most institutions. So we know if they're serious, yes or no. Then we check the concept of the exhibition. Is it a scientific exhibition? Or is it just an event? We don't lend works of art to an event where it's just for fun. I mean, it should have some consistency. Then, at the same time, we check the condition of the work. Every step from the moment is taken out of storage or out of the rooms, up until the moment it will be hung in the exhibition wherever, in Brazil, for instance. Yeah? There will be someone next to it, a curator. So every step in the movement is checked, yeah, by someone, and you've got intermediate condition reports. The potter is not allowed to move the painting. The moment is fixed on the wall, up until the moment it will be transported back.
The information that comes across within an exhibition environment, we layer. So we cater for someone who wants to very quickly know what the area is about that they're walking into. We have top-level text for people that don't want to spend too long in the gallery but want a general idea of what's going on. And then we have more detailed text for those wanting to spend a longer time engaging. We also have other threads that run through our galleries that cater for perhaps a different audience, such as a trail that will run on a lower level so that the sightlines more for a junior visitor, and that perhaps they can go off across the gallery and get on with discovering things for themselves whilst we're giving the adults in their visitor group the information that they want as well. We've also started to produce different guides to go with the gallery. So, for instance, we have a selection of guides in our new Images of Nature gallery. We have an easy-to-read guide, which not only explains the gallery text in simple English, but is also a terrific guide for parents to take around with their children and use it as a tool for unlocking and explaining the stories going on. We have large print and braille text guides available, and we also have additional information on screen-based exhibits that's available to save to a website. We have little cards called Nature Plus cards, and our visitors are encouraged to collect these Nature Plus cards, scan the information they'd like to look at more in depth at home, and then when they're at home, there's a unique number on the back of the card. All they have to do is go to our website, type in that number, and they can access this in-depth info from the comfort of their home.
We use the metaphor of Alice in Wonderland. If people go to the museum, we would like to behave the visitor as Alice in Wonderland, and we seduce Alice to go in one of the boxes. This is a cultural shopping mall. You come in and you decide which theme is interesting for you. That's the reason why we work with thematical themes, not geographical but thematical. And that's the reason why we try to seduce you, depending on your mood, depending on what you are interested in. And if you go in one of the boxes, we worked with what we call a grid. Our scenographers, the interior architects, so you could say, we invited them to put more of the opera and to put more of the theater in the presentations. And as a consequence, people come in to pick up a story, but you are following a kind of a dramaturgy. So first you have the wake-up space, and it's multimedia, and it's a reflection on the theme. And Alice is thinking, when she goes in the box, she's thinking, what is the theme about? Is it about the power, the display of power? or is it about the port of Antwerp? And then we try to trigger people. People, if they come here, they have to work mentally. That's the difference with Disneyland. If you go to Disneyland, you don't have to work. You experience it. This is not Disneyland, this is Wonderland. So you have to work and think about what you could see and have the interaction with the things you have on display. And the nice thing is that, well, you can think about that and you can ask scenographers to install that, and you can invite public services to think about how you bring this over to the audiences, and then you think about the curators and that kind of things. But then people have to experience it, and people have to accept it and find it out. And now when people visit the Maas, most of them say, well, this is fascinating, but to be honest, this is not a museum. And then we are very happy with that remark.
A avaliação das ações da gente são feitas através de relatórios. A gente tem relatórios pontuais, né? Quantitativos e qualitativos, e de cada atividade que é realizada. A gente tem os relatórios mensais e um relatório anual das ações e das atividades, das exposições que acontecem aqui.
A gente também preenche um formulário de pós-produção, ou seja, quantas pessoas foram, como foi a divulgação, como ocorreu o projeto, se teve algum atraso, se teve algum incidente, se foi tudo bem, o que poderia ter melhorado, se o tempo atrapalhou, se houve chuva, enfim. É uma forma da gente ter isso registrado, e como se trata de uma instituição, a gente tem que ter o cuidado de deixar tudo isso muito bem documentado, arquivado e guardado, para que no futuro, se outra pessoa trabalhar no meu lugar ou se mudar a gestão, que tenha isso formatado e arquivado.
We split our evaluation into 3 phases. We have our front-end evaluation, which is the most important in making sure that the concepts, the ideas we've come up with initially are appealing to our visitors, are what we're trying to get across to them is what they're getting back from that. So we would do that, we do it in several different ways depending on what exactly the questions are we're asking, but most commonly we would use focus groups so that we can get people really talking in depth about some of the issues we're presenting and understanding what's appealing to them, where their knowledge lies, where things they're a little confused about that we can maybe explain more in the exhibition. Then as we work through our concept and scheme design, we will be doing formative evaluation. That'll be testing out prototypes of exhibits. We might test our tone of voice, how we're writing the text. Is it appealing to people? Is it a little bit dull? Is it a little bit too chatty? It's just trying to get the right balance of how we're approaching that. We might be prototyping our interactives, making sure that the ideas we have for games are things that people will understand and will get and will be interesting and easy to play. And then we will also always test our exhibitions after they open as well. So we will test how they're doing against a set of outcomes for our visitors that we have formulated, that they are our ambitions for what people will take away. And it's not just in the knowledge that they gain or the understanding, but it's also in the type of experience they had, in how we've managed to change their attitudes or their behaviours after they've left the exhibition.
It's a collection of qualitative and quantitative measures that we do. The most obvious one is the number of people that come and visit, and we would record that. So obviously, if we want to have a very broad appeal, to have lots of thousands and thousands of people coming is very important. But it's not just about that, it's also about how people have perceived the exhibition. We do research to evaluate how people responded to it, how positively they feel towards it. Another measure would be the amount of publicity that we get, and was it positive? So again, with the Leonardo exhibition, it had fantastic publicity all the way around the world, and we monitor that and evaluate. That's one of the most important evaluations. There's also how we are considered amongst the art critics and amongst our peers in the art world. So a favourable reception from the art world, the academics, the researchers and the art critics is also very important.
Every exhibition has its specific problem, and it's not always easy to pinpoint that problem from the start. So it comes up as You know, when you have an exhibition with a living artist, of course it's easier because he's alive and you can contact him whenever you want, and you can. But then again, it's more difficult because they have, you know, wishes, that, you know, etc., etc. But the main problem is this budget, of course. I think insurance, transport. It's very expensive to and it's more and more difficult. There are so many exhibitions worldwide, new countries making a lot of exhibitions as well, and it's getting more difficult to obtain loans because it's kind of a, you know, a routine. It's come, you know, one exhibition after the other, and it's getting complicated.
The main challenge for a temporary exhibition here is that it's not just being shown at this museum. It's going to travel to lots of different venues who have exhibition spaces of lots of different shapes and sizes. So really the main thing for us is making sure that when we design the exhibition and when we work with the exhibition designers to create the structures, that we make them as modular and flexible as possible. And we also consider the issues of actually transporting the set works and the showcases and the specimens, and making sure we're being efficient with our space, in our use of materials, and we're creating something that can be put up and taken down in lots of different venues. So it's the design, the flexibility of it, and also making sure that it's robust enough to last for at least 5 years on the road, because they travel thousands of miles in their lifetime, and we want them to look as fresh in the last venue as they did when they were on show here.
One of the main challenges with working with permanent exhibitions is knowing that the exhibition is going to be scrutinised and visited by the public and peers for a very long time. So we have to almost future-proof what we do and think about that in the development process. That can range from thinking about how the graphic design look and feel could be perceived in 10 years' time, right through to the tone of voice.
I think we face a very challenging time in the art gallery world. Increasing competition for people's leisure time, a difficult economic situation, which is why I think it is important that one continues to have free admission. But it's also important that we continue to have something fresh and new and different, so highlighting different aspects of the permanent collection and having really tremendous high quality exhibitions is important. So it's keeping that mix.
Antecedência, organização e criatividade parecem ser as palavras de ordem quando o assunto é produção de exposições. Imagine, uma exposição pode levar até 5 anos sendo produzida. E no seu contexto, na sua realidade, como é a produção de exposições? Conta pra gente, participe desse diálogo sobre gestão cultural. E não se esqueça, se você gostou do que viu, compartilhe, chame outros amigos para essa roda sobre gestão e cultura.